Hey everyone, just thought I'd do a video on some ideas in the inverse function section that can be useful for the graphing project. The first is kind of the idea of switching your y's and your x's, right? So swapping x with y is something that we do sometimes when we're trying to find an inverse function. Um, that allows us to do functions that are functions in x and not functions in y. Where you have y equals, right, a function of x, but maybe you want x equals a function of y instead. So just swapping the x and y's in the usual equations can do that. So I have here, we'll go and put in the usual form, right, which is y is a times my x minus h, right, squared plus k. And normally, I'm going to switch the colors just because it gave me the same one. So let's do this in maybe purple for that one. And what you can see over here, right, is that usual parabola that we would have with that purple. And if I modify, right, the a, I can stretch it or shrink it. If I change the h or the k, I can move it, right, left or right, that sort of thing. You can even drag, right? I put a point here, that draggable point, so you can drag it wherever you want. But maybe I don't want that. Maybe like for these stripes, I need to use sideways parabolas, not up and down parabolas. So what I can do then is just swap my x's and y's. So I'm going to swap the y on the outside with an x, the x on the inside with a y. I'm also going to swap the h and the k, just so I have the same kind of vertex pairing where the x goes with the h on the outside of the square. The y goes now with the k on the inside of the square. So if I do that, now I get this sideways parabola, and all the same stuff will apply, right? The a is going to stretch or shrink that, make it skinnier or wider. Negatives are going to go to the left, positives are going to go to the right. The hk, h will still shift left and right, k will still shift up and down because I have them associated with the k with the y, the h with the x still. So just swapping your pieces around can also help you with some curves that maybe were more difficult to do with usual functions that go up and down, but now we can use functions that go left and right just by swapping those x's and y's. So this I can, try to drag, to a certain place, try to adjust, that sort of thing. Wherever I might want to do it, whichever stripe or curve, right? Maybe I want to try to do side of that tongue and, wrap it around, figure out if I can get, right, that to kind of match up. So that's kind of the idea, right, on those is just using those sliders and draggable points, but this time also switching the variables to get functions that normally aren't functions, right? This fails the vertical line test, but in one way, it is a function if I'm thinking of x as a function of y, right? So it does pass the horizontal line test, which means for every y that goes in, there's only one x that goes out. So we could put x as a function of y. So essentially, swapping the y's and x's will just change the direction of everything. The other thing you might want to think about is rearranging equations. That can also be useful. For some of these guys, especially when you're getting ready for shading. So right now I have a line that I've figured out matches right with the right side of this body that's right here. So right now I haven't restricted it. It goes all the way up and down. But if I want to shade, say, in between the right side and the left side, right, all the way across, that orange color, and then later I'll put the cream on top of it, there's going to be a problem because this is going to be, say, an x equation. This will be a y equation. And it's just a little bit easier if this were x equals and x equals rather than a x equals and a y equals. So rearranging can also help, which is something that you do with inverse functions. So I can rearrange this, right, as we could subtract the 37, right? So we would get a y minus 37 is equal to that negative 4.2x. And then I can divide that by the negative 4.2. and I'll just be left with my x, right? So I could say x equals, right, that guy right there, and that is now the same line, but as an x equals equation rather than a y equals equation. And if you want to, do some more work to figure out, oh, what is 37 divided by the negative 4.2 and 1 over negative 4.2, you could, but this is also okay. I can just leave it like that. I'm going to go ahead and figure out what the restriction should be, right? So this height is about 1.83 up there. So we'll say we want our y's, right, less than or equal to the 1.83. And then I want my y's down here to be, I think the bottom of the picture is about negative 15. So negative 15, less than or equal to that. So now that is that blue line, right, just along there. And what I can do after that is take whatever this x was on the left side. I think I called it, or again, this is a y left edge body, so I would want to rearrange that for x. Try to get that in terms of y. And then I can have an x on the left, x on the right, and go ahead and just shade in between those. So sometimes when you find an equation, right, you might find it as a y equals, and then later on you find out, oh, maybe it's better as an x equals. Just rearrange the equation, right, to get a piece, and then you can shade in between those pieces. So that would be my tip for the day. I'll go ahead and solve this one out. If you want to try it, you can, but I'm going to kind of pause the recording, solve it, and then we'll shade in between those in a minute. All right, so rearranging this, right, I can add the 0.7, divide by the negative 0.74, take a square root, and we'll use the positive root because we want the right side of the parabola, and then finally, right, subtract off that negative, that 1.36, so subtract it off. So it's just basically undoing all the operations is kind of what you're doing there. So I've done that, right? Added the 0.7 divided by the negative 0.74, and then subtracted off the negative 1.36. And now my y's are going between this negative 15 up to about negative 3.5. For now, I'm just going to call these, right, we'll say this is x1, this is x2. And then if I wanted to shade, right, x1 less than or equal to x, less than or equal to x2. I could do that, and I could also, right, change that color. So the plan might be, oh, I'm going to call that this orange color, and then later on I'll put on top of it the cream color. That'll be a little tricky because I got all these jagged lines, but it's doable. Just a little trickier than maybe some other stuff. But feel free, right, you can shade across this whole thing as long as you cover it up later, right, with the cream. I don't have to do this to this and this to this and this to this. So save me a little bit of work at least by going the full body length with the orange, and then I just have to worry about the creams in between later on. So hope that was helpful. So that's just a couple ideas related to inverses that might help you on certain parts of the graphing project. We will see you on the next one.